All right, let's dive into one of the most intense and dramatic stories of judgment and consequence you'll ever find, the absolute destruction of Sodom. We're going to walk through this account, and it's a wild story of divine power, human weakness, and a society that was just teetering on the edge of its own doom.
You know what? We're actually going to start at the end, with this image right here. This is the aftermath. This is what Abraham saw when he looked out over the land. It's just devastation. And I think starting here really sets the stage, because it shows you the catastrophic stakes of the story we're about to get into.
So let's hit rewind and see how all this kicked off. The story really begins in the city of Sodom. A man named Lot is just sitting by the city gate in the evening, and he spots 3 visitors coming his way. Now, he has no idea yet, but their arrival is the spark that's about to ignite everything. Okay, right off the bat, here's a really key detail from our source material. It says there were 3 divine ambassadors who showed up, not 2, which is what you might hear in other versions. It's a small detail, but it tells us we're looking at a very specific telling of this story.
So Lot sees these guys, and he is insistent that they come stay at his house. The source says he pressed upon them greatly, and that phrase tells you everything. He knows just how dangerous it is for a stranger on the streets of Sodom after the sun goes down. His urgency, well, it's our first big red flag about the corruption festering in this city.
And yeah, guest as Lot feared, things go bad fast. His guests are barely inside before the men of the city, we're talking old man, young man from every single part of town, completely surround his house. The whole vibe just flips from tense to outright hostile in a heartbeat.
And here is their demand, in their own chilling words. There is zero ambiguity here. Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. This one sentence from the mob just lays bare the absolute depth of their depravity and what they intend to do.
Lot, trying to de-escalate, goes outside. He even shuts the door behind him to protect his guests, and he pleads with the crowd. He calls them brethren, trying to appeal to some sense of shared humanity. But it's a desperate move, and, as we're about to see, a totally useless one.
And look how quickly the mob turns on him. They hear his plea for basic decency and see it as him, an outsider, trying to judge them. Their response is pure rage. They basically say, "Who are you to tell us what to do? We'll deal with you even worse than with them." Their hatred for any kind of moral standard is just right there on the surface.
So right as the mob is about to smash the door down, we get this massive moment of divine intervention. The visitors, who are obviously not just visitors, pull Lot back inside, slam the door, and strike the entire frenzied crowd with blindness. Just like that, the standoff is over. Not through reason, but with a supernatural power that leaves the mob stumbling around, totally helpless.
Okay, so Lot is safe inside, and now the messengers lay it all out for him. The wickedness of this city has reached its breaking point. They tell him the cry against Sodom has reached the Lord, and they've been sent to completely destroy it. The time for talking is over. It is time to run.
And the instructions for survival are crystal clear. There's no room for negotiation. 1. Get your family. 2. Run for the mountains. 3. Don't stop anywhere on the plain. And 4, and this one is so important, do not look behind you. Every single one of these commands is a matter of life and death. But even with that terrifying warning, what does Lot do? He hesitates. The source says he lingered. He's thinking about his home, his life, his daughters who married men from the city, everything he's about to lose. His connection to that place is so strong that the angels literally have to grab him, his wife, and his daughters by the hand and drag them out of the city. And this brings us to probably the most famous and most tragic part of the entire story. The family is fleeing for their lives. The city is doomed behind them, and they have that one simple, critical rule to follow. Just don't look back. And Lot's wife, she looks back, and that one single act, that moment of disobedience, or maybe just longing for the life she was forced to leave, it seals her fate. It makes you ask, why? What was so terrible about one backward glance? Well, our source offers a really fascinating idea here, using this term, the fringe of iniquity. Now, iniquity isn't just a bad deed, it's a deep, willful kind of corruption. The idea is that Lot's family chose to live right on the edge of Sodom's wickedness, getting as close as they could without, as the source says, slipping over the brink. So her look back wasn't just idle curiosity,
It was a sign that her soul was still tied to that corrupt world, and that connection was fatal.
And then judgment falls. The moment Lot and his daughters get to safety, the Lord rains down brimstone and fire from the sky. The text describes a complete and total annihilation. The cities, the entire plain, every single person, even the plants growing in the ground, wiped out.
So what happens to the people who made it out? Well, Lot gets scared of staying in the small town he fled to, so he takes his 2 daughters and goes to live in a cave up in the mountains. They are now totally cut off from everything they've ever known. Just a tiny, broken family in a desolate world.
And it's in this lonely cave that a new and pretty awful crisis starts to brew. Lot's daughters seem to believe they're the last people on Earth, and they're faced with this stark reality. Their father is old, and there's no one left to carry on the family line. This leads them to a truly terrible solution.
The source flat out calls their plan wicked. Over 2 nights, they conspire to get their father so drunk he won't know what's happening so that they can sleep with him and preserve the family line. It's this chilling, desperate plan and a terrifying echo of the very same kind of morality they were supposed to have left behind in Sodom.
And the plan works. Both daughters get pregnant, and from these unions, 2 sons are born who go on to father 2 nations. The firstborn son is Moab, who becomes the father of the Moabites. The younger son is Ben-Ami, who becomes the father of the Ammonites. 2 future nations born out of this incredible tragedy.
And that is the last we ever hear of Lot. After this final, deeply disturbing event, the man who was rescued from Sodom, who hosted angels, who lost almost everything, he just vanishes from the story.
Which really leaves us with this final, nagging question. They escaped the physical destruction of Sodom, a place that was defined by its wickedness. But in the end, did they really escape its influence, or did they just carry the seeds of that very same corruption with them, right into the cave where they thought they'd found safety? It's something to think about long after the smoke is cleared.